think it's 5 we can start.
Yeah.
People will join with them. We can start, Mahalingam.
Yeah. Good evening to all. A warm greetings from TwinTech Academy, Chennai. I heartily welcome all the participants, faculty, occupational health consultants, and our beloved chief guest, Dr. P.P. Santhanam sir, for the CME on occupational optometry. I take this opportunity to brief about our TwinTech Academy very briefly. TwinTech Academy Business Management Solutions, a company engaged with offering practical and implemental solutions in the areas of healthcare education, management training, management consultancy, and counseling on a case-to-case basis. TwinTech also offer solutions and services in several other areas too. TwinTech is supported by many eminent practicing professionals as members of the advisory board. The overwhelming response that the TwinTech Academy received for the recent seminars, workshops, and webinars conducted in the areas like healthcare administration, HR in healthcare, legal aspects in healthcare, biomedical waste management, laboratory practices, healthcare management, patient safety, healthcare supply chain management, healthcare quality in accreditation, and optometry programs like practices and management, optometry entrepreneurship management skills, CME on low vision, and CME on awareness program on a patient with low vision difficulties has come as a major push and encouragement to organize a CME on occupational optometry today. I feel delighted to welcome an encyclopedia of optometry, Dr. R. Krishna Kumar, to moderate this CME, and over to Dr. KK.
Thank you, Mahalingam, for the kind words. I think it is indeed a great moment for me to tell about this today's CME on occupational optometry. The key point here, we are going to cover on key aspects of visual performance and comfort and safety and productivity. How these things are going to be well connected to make it more meaningful to our receiver, in this case, the employer and the employee, so that their productivity increases, their earning capacity increases. It is going to be a better economy for the country. And also, it's a great pleasure for me to introduce my guru, who is the chief guest of this occasion, Dr. P.P. Santhanam. So on conventional eye examination, we know that in all our eye care practices, we tend to offer the services more from the point of view of the conditions a person have or they don't have, or maximum you try to see whether the person has refractive error or not, or any diagnosis to refer the patient to the concerned specialist people. But what is missing in all these things in a conventional procedure is our understanding of the people's occupation on the job, the environment in which they do work, the lighting under which they do work, what are the things, difficulties they do have, what is the demand or visual demand per se in those work environment. This knowledge is always skipping our examination most of the time. Now, if we want to cover it, I feel it will be more apt for us to understand this occupational optometry. We all know that today unorganized sector is almost occupying. That means workers are there predominantly in the unorganized sector to the extent of 92 to 94%. And it become indeed, if you know that in an organized sector, at least they do have an occupational health center. The doctor is there to take care to some extent or appropriately refer them or invite people like us to offer the services. But in terms of unorganized sectors, it is very much indeed a big gap, and government is putting some effort. We are also, as a private organization, Shankar Netralaya also putting a lot of effort, and many of these people are putting the offering and services towards that. So in a conventional eye care examination, we saw what is that is missing. And what is the best answer for this? I felt, or we feel that occupational optometry services will be the appropriate answer for it, wherein we try to understand the visual demand to match with the visual ability and therefore have a much impact on the productivity, and try to see that picking up yearly various eye conditions, especially chronic in nature, and third, ensuring appropriate safety goggles to ensure the better productivity as well. Think about a person who has got an injury, and naturally what will happen, he has to absent himself from the job, and that is going to have an impact on the productivity. Think about otherwise, a person, I remember, I think Dr. P.P. Santanam, our group, shared this very interesting scenario. He was telling that one of his good friend is an IT based friend. He was more on executive level. If one fine day he's called him and told, sir, I'm going to quit the job. Usually quitting the job is not a problem at all, but quitting the job for a purpose, usually we think probably they are quitting the job because they want to take care of their parents. They might be thinking of in terms of, no, the managers are not good, the work he is not very happy with. Interestingly, this person told, because he has got headache and neck ache and eye strain, especially during work, and so he couldn't continue the work, so he's willing to quit the job or the profession itself. He has to move out from that thing. And he said, I have met many specialists throughout the Bangalore and I couldn't get any solution. I think this is going to be permanently going to be with me and I can't move ahead. And Dr. P.P. Santanam said, why not you come to our place? We have a computer vision clinic, and we are assured that the optometrist there probably will answer to your question. Interestingly, that positive thing happened. The optometrist over there tried to make the person sit in the workstation, simulated workstation, and notice that they have an abnormal posture while working on the computer. And a simple solution by providing them appropriate design and occupational health, occupational lenses solved his problem. Today, he's on the topmost post and he's an executive level, is still productive. I feel this is the key role an optometrist can play in occupational health arena. So too with the safety, where today we are going to listen to two topics by eminent optometrists who have served this area for quite long term. I should not say myself. And another is Dr. Rashima, who has contributed to this field and been recognized by different awards. She will be sharing about how to initiate such occupational optometry service as a part of your clinic. With this introduction of the CME, I would like to take the pleasure of introducing today's chief guest, Dr. P.P. Santanam, eminent personality in occupational health, a founder and advisor of occupational optometry services, a guru for many of us. And I had the tutelage of being under him to learn from various nuances, not only optometry, but also how it should be delivered to people with a great concern. Dr. P.P. Santanam is a person who has established and successfully established occupational health center way back in 60s in Neyveli Lignite Corporation, which catered to almost 20,000 people, as well as a medical officer in Lucas TVS, which catered to almost 4,000 people. Apart from that, he was also between 81 and 87 served as technical cooperation expert in Barbados, West Indies, as part of the fulfillment of Commonwealth funding, and he has initiated various occupational health services in that country. It is not stopped there actually. He came back to India thanks to Dr. Badrinath, who invited him, and he became the first principal of Elite School of Optometry way back in 87, 88. And he also took the responsibility of introducing in 80s, for the first time in India, the subject called occupational optometry. In 88, later on in 2012, he introduced or made us to start occupational optometry services for the patients. And later on, he also contributed with amount of experience and hands-on experience he had throughout his lifetime. I came out with a book in 2015, Dr. P.P. Santhanam's textbook of occupational optometry. In 2015, it was a great milestone in occupational optometry. He also served as Honorary General Secretary, President of the Indian Association of Occupational Health, and also he has been recognized in 1995 as the Best Resource Person Award. In 2007, he was honored as Fellow of Indian Association of Occupational Health, and very recently, he was bestowed Dr. C.K. Ramchandra Memorial Lifetime Achievement Award. The list keeps going, and it's a very long one. I think with want of time, I'm going to tell one important aspect which all of us should gain that into our life beyond occupational optometry. Beyond doing all these initiatives, he had kept in back of your mind two aspects: that he want to be philanthropic in nature. He has to ignite that nature in people around him as well. And during his time at Elite School of Optometry, and after leaving that also, he ensured that his support continues to be with that institution. In the recent years, he also instituted two awards in his name of his parents as well as name of his wife's parents, which ensure people who pursue PhD and pursue community optometry services and occupational optometry services get benefited by this endowment, generous endowment awards. I think that says a lot about Dr. P.P. Santhanam, and we can take the pleasure of listening to his wonderful talk, which he has recorded and sent. Because of technological issues, he couldn't come online, but he's still listening to all of us. Mr. Mahalingam, can you just play the recorded message from Dr. P.P. Santhanam?
Yes. Good evening to all. I congratulate Sri Mahalingam, a versatile health management promoter, in choosing occupational optometry as today's webinar topic, and rightly identifying two top-notch specialists of the subject, Dr. R. Krishna Kumar and Dr. A. Rashima, to deliver the lectures. I am grateful to Sri Mahalingam for inviting me to be the chief guest of this webinar, a subject close to my heart and closer and clearer to my eyes. Occupational optometry is a service dedicated to health and safety of eye and vision as it relates to any occupation which we understand as work. Work, in a sense, is a series of purposeful and coordinated motor activity intended to culminate in a desired result. Any work or task gives sensory inputs such as visual, sound, touch, smell, etc. to the brain, which analyzes and processes the information received and in turn sends impulses to the concerned muscles to act. Visual inputs form 80% of total sensory inputs and thus become important in carrying out work effectively and productively. If you ask someone, what is your occupation? The response could be, I am a sculptor, I am a carpenter, I am a weaver, I am an IT professional, I am a cricketer, etc. If you further ask, what work do you do? Then the sculptor might say, shaping and carving stones to produce figures, idols, animals, etc. The carpenter might say, my work is to make furniture. Please understand, each work is an aggregate of series of tasks. In the case of the carpenter, the tasks in his work would include measuring required dimensions of the wood, cutting it to size by a saw, hand or mechanical, then shaping it using chisel and planer to bring the wood pieces to the required size, and fixing the components using nails and screws, and finally polishing or painting. Occupational optometry aims at matching the visual demand created by the task and the visual capability of the individual to do the task comfortably and efficiently within the work environment. It also deals with the prevention of occupation-related eye injuries and ocular and visual effects of physical, chemical, and other hazards. The need for this special branch of optometry becomes evident when one understands that the prescription for glasses or contact lenses that an optometrist generally gives, based purely on the person's visual assessment alone, will not give the required corrections, comfort, or be of any use if the occupational needs are not taken into consideration. Good vision of the individual and adequate illuminance on the task in the workplace is essential for optimal work performance. It helps in reducing accident rate and absenteeism and positively enhances the safety, health, morale, and well-being of the individual. As a result, it helps any industry to increase productivity. Occupational optometrists develop vision standards for various occupations to be enforced at the recruitment process for selection of appropriate persons. In this connection, I would like to say here that vision standards are available for only about half a dozen occupations in India. Example, railways, driving, pilots, etc. We at Occupational Optometry Services of Shankar Nethralaya and Elite School of Optometry have developed vision standards for about 25 occupations in the unorganized sector, some of which have been published in peer-reviewed journals. Optometrists carry out periodic eye examination to provide necessary interventions, prescribe eyewear, that is glasses, as well as create awareness among workers regarding ocular hazards present at the workplace and emphasize the importance of using eye protective devices, that is, personal protective equipments, while at work. The substantial loss of man hours, wages, the substantial loss of man hours, wages, and the corresponding loss in production that occurs due to eye and vision related problems at the workplace can thus be dealt with and reduced by a well-trained occupational optometrist. Now, my take-home advice to practicing optometrists. The inadequacy of general health infrastructure, and more specifically, visual health among the unorganized sector workers, who form 85 to 90% of the 45 crore of working population of India, has thrown up a challenge. I request all optometrists to wake up to the situation and ask everyone who seek eye examination and prescription details of their occupation or work. Allocate some time, visit the place of work, assess the visual task and safety needs, and then prescribe corrective glasses with properly placed segments or progressive lens or other interventions to enhance better vision. This will have greater benefit and patient acceptance and moral satisfaction for you as the concerned optometrist. Thus, you not only would strengthen and expand your practice, but importantly, also be instrumental in developing and boosting visual and ocular health of the society and our nation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I think that was really inspiring and putting us through a right path. And hope all the audience also are with me and ensure that his vision for occupational optometry come true. That more number of people involved in trying to take care of 94 plus 6 percentage of the organized and unorganized sector. Thank you very much, sir. Uh, Mahalingam.
Yeah. To begin with the sessions, I invite Dr. Krishna Kumar, who has served as the occupational optometry for almost 10 years at Shankar Nethralaya. His experiences expanded to both organized and unorganized sectors. He, he offered his occupational optometry services to different industries, namely iron and steel, rubber, tire, automobile, electronics, petrochemical industries, and also served thousands of workers associated with unorganized sector. He was also recognized by Indian Association of Occupational Health, Tamil Nadu chapter, to give Dr. Deiva Sigamani Memorial Oration in the year 2016. He also published scientific articles in various peer-reviewed journals and also joint editor and chapter contributor of the first of its kind book in India on occupational optometry, as well as chapter contributor in another book on occupational health. It is our pleasure to have you here, Dr. KK. Over to you.
Thank you. Actually, I will just share the presentation. 1 minute. Yeah, taking time. It says you can't share your screen. You must grant permission. Can you help me, Mahalingam? Yeah. Yeah. So I think. It's taking time. Sorry.
Shall I share it from here?
You can do that. I don't know. It's taking time. Okay, you can. Can you?
Yeah, yeah.
Hope it should not open in between. Oh, it's. I think it is open. Is yours or mine?
Yours.
Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yours.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I think My computer is slow. I don't know. Just oh, I'm very sorry. Actually, it's okay. I think it is getting.
Yeah, you carry on, carry on. We started
Yeah,
from here. Yeah.
fine, fine, fine. Okay, thank you. Sorry for the delay. And thank you, Mahalingam, for your kind words. And it's a great pleasure being invited to talk on this topic on how, as an optometrist, through the occupational optometrist services, can enhance workers' productivity. That is to say, how, as an optometrist, if given an opportunity in industries and in unorganized sectors, we could contribute in their productivity. So I will try to go one by one and see how we could achieve that one. First of all, these are the contents I'm going to cover, and want of time, I'm not going to talk each thing now. We will just go one by one. Now, what is productivity from our general perspective? We all know productivity is something like quantity of work we produced in specific time by an individual or a team or a business. And efficiency is the key aspect of it, on the other hand, which refers to the resources used to produce that work. To try to look from the perspective of an optometrist offering the service in terms of productivity. An individual, as an employee working in industry, has got visual impairment, or think about a person around 41, 42 years, is working in a quality inspection area, whereas his job is to look at, visually inspect the product and try to say this product is worth it or not worth it. Now think about a scenario, he has not been given a simple presbyopic correction and is performing despite having good light, and his performance will have lot of leakages. And if this productivity is going to hamper, therefore, he might be having the doubt often that whether what he is seeing is correct or not. In a place where 100 products can be evaluated, he might be looking at 60 or 70. A simple solution of providing them with an appropriate working distance correction would have solved his problem, and probably he will start contributing in terms of productivity, will increase in such things. That is the key aspect of productivity in connection with what an optometrist can provide for us. Now we can look into various data in the literatures and also our experiences, which we want to share later. Today, when we look at a global scenario of productivity loss associated with the burden of visual impairment, in 2015, data showed almost 244 billion US dollars. And in the 2019, the 19 showed the data of 1.51 million euros per year because of visual impairment. Same way, look at uncorrected refractive error, which estimates the productivity loss because of that to almost 202 billion US dollar per annum. And global productivity, which has came just recently in 2019, because of uncorrected myopia, they found that global productivity loss is almost 49 billion US dollar. The same way, try to extend it with a myopia macular degeneration is also increasing in number. They found that it also have a productivity loss of almost 6 billion US dollar. So put together, global productivity loss due to uncorrected presbyopia is almost 11,023 billion US dollar to 25,367 billion US dollar. Now, all these things are simple things. I'm not talking about complicated eye problems. I'm talking about something very, very fundamental, and our contribution is huge. Now, look at this scenario. A simple statistic of 90% of the individuals experiences near vision loss in this country, especially when they encountered with the daily work. It can be activities of daily living, or it might be the work at the work area. Almost 23% of the employees reported compromised ability to generate income. It is because of poor near visual activity. Look at another data which says uncorrected vision. We see that people with uncorrected vision in the area or where they make the product, it always found to be 3 times more rejection by the quality control supervisors. Now, vision problems among various jobs definitely have an impact on their day-to-day and productivity. Look at this electronic and jewelry makers in Thailand, which came in the 2006, have shown that uncorrected visual acuity, because of that, they had a lot of eye-related problems, symptoms, and since it has not been taken care, it had affected their visual performance and therefore their productivity. The other extreme of it, people with vision problems, they might come and attend the job. Like, for example, I told the presbyopic patient who would have come and offered the job. But look at closely, the presenteeism is more costly than the absenteeism. In fact, literatures have shown results in almost 32 times productivity losses than the absenteeism itself. So it is adequate evidence we do have that visual impairment is a critical factor in productivity. Now, we can slightly shift. Is it only the visual impairment issues? Is it only the refractory issue, presbyopic issue? It is also a dry eye, for example. Today, we talk about dry eye. It is expected that in India, in urban population, thanks to COVID, we are going to have even higher number than what it was predicted way back before the COVID. In 2030, 50% of the urban population is going to have dry eye. It is going to increase thanks to COVID. Now, this dry eye problem has got some sequence. It might be occupational risk factors, it can be environmental risk factor, it can be personal risk factor. Irrespective of that, a person is in a work environment, either they might be having temporary symptoms or the chronic symptoms, which will have an impact on their visual acuity and as well as their performance in their day-to-day work thing, which lead to fatigueness and therefore a deteriorated work performance. It is not without evidence. This sequence is not without evidence. Look at this information in offices where it has deteriorated the work performance according to the severity of the dry eye. A person in presenteeism, you can look at how severe ocular disability has contributed to 42.2% of people's it's equivalent to WPI is equivalent to saying that their productivity or their performance. Because as productivity impairment, you can look at productivity impairment is very high among people with severe ocular disability, and activity impairment is also high among people with dry eye with higher severe ocular disability. Now, this is another study which has shown a relationship between the occupation and dry eye. They're classified based on the International Standard Classification of Occupation 2008. All those people, whether they had the dry eye or not. Put the things very simple. Don't forget about all this graphical representation. It all says people whose jobs are more indoor are more prone for dry eye as compared to people who are of the outdoor activity. At least we have an information and evidence today where to look for people with dry eye and to whom that dry eye as a battery of tests that we have to include it. Of course, most of us do it for people who are working on the computers. Now, that is another extreme. We saw visual impairment, we saw the dry eye. We also have to look another extreme where we can contribute. A simple lighting, it's an enlightening story. It was also a story way back in 90s when a post office was not performing well. They were wondering why. One of the experts from the vision care industry came and said, why not you enlighten the people with appropriate lighting? And they found that it has transformed and boost their revenue by almost 3 times than it was. And also the people who are working there were comfortable. So keep in mind, a lighting and illuminance at workplace are very, very critical. What are the benefits of good office lighting? Please don't neglect it. Wherever you go as an occupational optometrist, you can contribute. You need not to say you are an expert. You can say there is already a reference exists. Based on the reference, when I evaluated your illuminance here at your workstation, it is not adequate enough. It has clearly shown that 16% increase in productivity, 24% of job satisfaction and reduction in day taking off, and 52% decrease in accident when offices are well lit, and 15% increase in employee comfort and reduction in energy cost. Now, this is another study which has shown 68% of employees today, if you go and randomly look at, they're discontent with the lighting in their offices. Many places we have seen, whether it is an organized sector or an unorganized sector, lighting is an issue, especially in places where the production happens. In this study, it has clearly shown that increasing 1 unit illumination level causes an almost 1% of less defects. He also suggested appropriate lighting for garment industry. You can go by the national lighting standard, or you can calculate it according to the lighting. So put in nutshell, there are 3 effects of poor lighting. 1, safety hazard. 2nd, the quality of work. And 3rd, health hazard. So reiterating the thing, visual impairment, whether it is due to refractive error or any other cause, dry eye, and poor lighting. I'm talking enumerating only 3 important aspects. There are n number other aspects. If you try to look, you can look at many other reasons why a person has got visual impairment and try to help them out. And that can transform this person's ability. Now look at this data. It's a projection data. It is a projection from 2050. Having known there is a problem, having known that we can give a solution, assuming that all of us are together and try to transform this along with the government initiative, if we could do that, we can bring down the number of people with moderate severe visual impairment as per the WHO classification, reduced from 435.8 million to almost 147.9 million. It's not just the number, it also can be translated into productivity gain of almost 17 trillion US dollars. Now look back in other scenarios also. 1 minute. And other scenarios also. Look at a simple uncorrected presbyopia. If we could avert almost 1.2 billion presbyopia life years and achieve almost 1.05 trillion US dollars productivity gains by 2050. So it is, if you put together the global productivity gains, if you try to apply and solve the problem of existing problems, we can ensure the productivity gain for all 3 categories, moderate, severe, as well as presbyopia category, that estimated gain of almost 19 trillion US dollars, which include India as well. Now, it is not only visual impairment, dry eye, or the third aspect of third aspect. There is a 4th component which we have to keep in mind, which is the safety wear. You look at this patient being provided, the employee being provided with the spectacles for as a safety gap, but since it is forming the fog, which is very often we see in the COVID scenario with our mask, there is a solution existing available. Normally we have the normal anti-fog liquids. Today for occupational optometry, 3M has come out. 3M has come out, and many other companies have come out with a product wherein it will last for a longer time than the existing coating. This is a simple solution whereby we can ensure that productivity can't be hampered, because think about every time they have to remove the glasses, clean it and put, which is not practical one. So this is a simple anti-fog coating procedure. We can definitely, you can utilize it. Maybe you can try to use any other products, but ensure that this is a simple problem and solution which we can offer to industry to enhance it. The other area which we commonly see, even I remember in one of the welding industry where we offered the service, in fact, the employer was saying the new welding glasses which were provided is good, but practical difficulty they have is whenever they want to look at that hinge areas where they have to really do the welding, they can't see it clearly. Though in that case, we advise them, why not you wear the near glasses, over it you try to wear these welding glasses. They found it relatively better. But today there is a solution from various companies where this welding glasses can change the color. It can become auto darkening filter and it become white when you try to look at for where this welding need to be done. So there are N number of solutions. I'm only trying to tell that safety as a solution, if you give for the problems they have, it will have a positive impact. Look at this case where they look in India, in the North India, where they try to provide them with the safety glasses for agriculture workers. It's a very tough one. And they try to demonstrate that their productivity has really improved by making them wear the thing. What exactly happened is the ocular injuries among the group A, where they worn the glasses appropriately, it is only less than 1%, and the people who didn't wear it is almost 11 to 12%. So it has really demonstrated if you make them wear, you can avoid ocular injury, and therefore the consequence of poor productivity or the productivity loss can be controlled. So we looked into 4 factors which is going to be beneficial for us. So I thought we will share some of our experiences. I will run it fast. The first and foremost, this is a call which came from one of the tannery industry. Probably many of you would have listened to this aspect, but I feel it is very important one. They said, sir, whether you can come and do Ishihara color vision test. But usually as a practice, we said, can we know what is the purpose of calling us to come and do Ishihara? Then they said the reason is because the products are getting rejected for the color reason. There is a difference. So we did a conventional approach. This will be discussed by the next speaker. I'm not getting into fine details. We did the visual task analysis in this page, in this group. And sorry. I don't know, it's getting slow. So what we advised is we went around the tour and we did the visual task analysis. 2 aspects we we looked into. We saw that we saw that the lighting in the place where they do the matching, which is not appropriate. And second thing, we observed that the people who are working there never been classified based on hue discrimination ability. So we did both in those groups, and we found it was more beneficial to help them to put people who are superior to color discrimination to put there in the place where the color matching is very critical. And other aspect that we suggested them is in terms of ideal lighting, because already this lighting industry has given Eminent C as a critical one, especially D65 and D50 for these kind of matching. We said we are not expert in it. These are the information already available. They immediately took and then tried to change, because it is a 700 crore business, and definitely they don't want to lose this great opportunity. And that is what an optometrist can contribute. They missed out in many places. What is the real problem? Now, the second one which I want to share is this is a company where they were doing the tire manufacturing, because tire manufacturing company is one of the largest it houses largest number of people, employees there, and it is almost 2.8 million people. And we looked into their problem. I think one of the key problem they expressed is supervisors input they gave is the quality leakage is 6%. And we asked them what are the activities they do. They say that almost 23 fine defects they have to pick up within 30 seconds for each tire. I think that is so they said probably is it because of visual problem or not. So we did a usual approach, trying to look at all the aspect. And one thing we noticed it, the timing, another thing, monotony and repetitive movements which they do have. Sorry. And we also looked into the lighting. We also found the lighting which they are using and lighting which we want to suggest based on our observation different. So we also didn't stop with that. We also did evaluate the people, and we found that almost 15% of them didn't meet the vision standard we looked into. And probably we said, is this, if you can fill this gap, probably the 6% leakage can be brought down. So we gave the recommendation. We also gave beyond our expertise one aspect which we said probably the monotonous also one of the key factor which they agreed, and we also gave how this can be mixed with visually demanding job and non-visually demanding job. So we don't know what is the end result, but they expressed that they were happy about this suggestion and hoped it would had an impact. This is a literature paper from Congdon. He looked into a similar intervention of glasses among the tea plant workers, and he found that compared to the control group, people who have given simple glasses, the productivity has really increased more. So this productivity from 25 kgs of leaves to almost 35 kgs of leaves are compared to a control group where the jump is only 5 units. So, and it also had a best compliance because after showing them the productivity, they continue to wear these glasses. Again, at the demonstration of how productivity had got impacted by a simple vision correction. This is another study done in South India among the spinners in Madurai. Around 238 cotton spinners and vendors been provided with glasses. Here they didn't do any visual task analysis, but they shown that 44% improved their productivity by 10 percentage and 23% of the workers improved by 20 percentage. Interestingly, the study showed none of them were wearing glasses before, and also 23% were did very well. 23% increasing their productivity by 10 percentage after giving the product. That they would have set some threshold, they worked beyond it and performed well. So it is again demonstrated the employees happy, employee were happy. This is another dimension, the salt pan workers. What we found it, they are working in labor intensive field and outdoor activity. We didn't find any of their activities visually demanding, except that they are working in a very hazardous environment. And we found that ocular morbidities like cataract, pterygium, and pendiculum are very common as like any other study before. And in this case, they said two main complaints. We all know that they had the glare, especially day glare while working, and poor vision. And we also found out the possible reasons. Though a written cataract with a lot of lenticular, yearly lenticular changes where we need not to go and refer them for cataract surgery. All we did is provide them with the appropriate glasses correction with photochromic property and told them what need to be done. When we went back to look at the compliance, whether it really had helped them, we found that only 25 out of 52 we could contact, only 25 of them were compliant about the glasses. So they gave various reasons. We reiterated, we told how it is going to really help them the work and it is going to really enhance the productivity. It has improved to around 75 percentage. Again, the productivity information need to come maybe in the next season. We will be getting those things. The last one which we want to share is this automobile mechanics. Again, both two-wheelers and four-wheeler people mechanics we took, and we also understood what are the work pattern they do have and what is the difference between the two. We did the visual task analysis. We also realized the importance of eye-hand coordination and abnormal postures with which they do work, especially as an individual thing. And we found that some of the parameters are very critical in this group, and we did get this information of what is the visual demand with which these people work. Now, what is we realized is predominant people had almost 44% of them had the near vision difficulty. Sorry, the sample size is very less, but still it is a good number to worry. And 14% among the four-wheeler didn't have adequate near vision thing. So we provided them with the glasses, and also what we looked into whether it had impacted their quality of life, and we also looked into the productivity. In both the case, both in two-wheeler as well as the four-wheeler, we found that some good term in terms of productivity, it has really increased, and the people felt wearing glasses is also acting as a protection for them while work, in addition to the lighting they using. So all these things are possible by one area called occupational optometry, and I'm not going to talk what it is, and the next speaker is going to detail about it. So it is very important that all of you try to approach in a systematic way, which is a 7-step approach we suggest, or you create your own steps and ensure that all these aspects being full. If you're going to fulfill the visual demand needs by good visual ability of the person who's working, we are ensuring one thing, matching visual demand and visual ability, therefore better productivity, better visual performance, better comfort, less absenteeism, and do it time and again in the periodic eye examination, and try to hold on to this lighting standard which is already there. Try to apply it whenever and implement it whenever it's required. In addition to that, ensure that your routine procedure of picking up yearly most of the chronic condition and referring them appropriately and taking care will ensure 100% occupational eye care for industry. And thank you very much for patient listening, and thank you. Hello.
Thank you, Dr. KK, for
Thank
sharing
you.
your wonderful experience and views on occupational optometry. Now we'll move on to the next topic.
And the next speaker is Dr. Rashima. Can you put the slides?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Mahalingam. I think our next speaker is Dr. Rashima. She will be enlightening us how we can incorporate occupational optometry services the best way into our existing practice. Dr. Rashima is the Assistant Professor of Elite School of Optometry, and she is the Head of Occupational Optometry Services and Senior Optometrist and Researcher in Glaucoma Project at Shankar Nethralaya. She is currently involved in both glaucoma research as well as a huge, a huge need in terms of occupational optometry services also. She's, along with the study team, has published their works in many national and international peer-reviewed journals and currently holds more than 30 peer-reviewed publications. And she has presented at various national and international conferences and received awards. To name a few, very proud to share that Young Scientist Award and Golden Jubilee Award from the Indian Association of Occupational Health. And she is also a proud recipient of Endeavour Executive Fellowship in Australia and a competitive grant from the Glaucoma Foundation from USA. Her area of research includes environmental effects on the eye, glaucoma, occupational ocular disorders, innovative education models, and so on. And I would like to invite Dr. Rashima to enlighten all of us.
Thank you so much, sir, for the nice introduction. And I first of all thank Mahalingam, sir, for inviting us to deliver the information about occupational optometry. And I thank Krishna Kumar, sir, and PPS, sir, for the strength and support they have given for us to take up the occupational optometry in a better way. So, to one time, I'm just going to share my slides. Is my slides visible, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about incorporating occupational optometry to strengthen your clinical practice. So as you all know, that you have been in the clinical practice for such a long time. So you must be thinking that I've been practicing for, say, 10 years, 15 years, and 20 years, and so on. Do I still need to relook into my practice? That must be one of your questions when you looked at the title of the talk today. And what is occupational optometry going to add to my practice? So I'm sure that every one of you had this question in your mind when you were looking at the title of the talk today. So I hope that I would be able to answer to this question in the talk today. So you all know that Indian healthcare system is actually wide in both length and breadth. So it has both government sectors, private clinics, and specialty and multi-specialty hospitals. If you look at the government sector, you have the primary healthcare centers, many say the district hospitals, medical colleges who are taking care of the huge need of the people in the country. And we also have the private clinics and specialty and multi-specialty hospitals, which is actually taking care of the additional load of the country. So having all these systems in place and many doctors and many allied healthcare professionals in place, so who are we addressing in this particular talk today? So one is the physician, who is actually the medical practitioner, who is equipped to diagnose the disease and also provide medical care and the surgical care to the people. And the other one is the eye care practitioners, which includes ophthalmologists and optometrists. And the occupational health specialist, whom I am referring here, is the medical officers in the industries who actually analyzes the work environment and give the appropriate care to the workers in the industries. So I'm addressing this particular talk to these three kind of people in the healthcare. So if you look at in general about clinical practice, most of our time, say about 60% of our time is spent in dealing with patients, and about 10 to 15% is spent with making the record of these patients, data handling, and also scheduling appointments, like fixing the appointments or queries about the patients, writing emails to them. So this is how usually a clinician's time is spent in patient care. If you look at the time spent by a clinician with a patient, say about most of the time it is about 20 minutes on an average a clinician spends with a patient, of which 10 minutes is spent in actually understanding about the patient. It is like, it says that history taken as the major component in patient handling. When we talk to patients, we understand about the patient and things. And then comes the clinical examination and finally the counseling, which is actually given the least importance. So let's see about few case scenarios. Actually, Dr. KK has made my job easy in giving about many of the case scenarios from our experiences and how we have handled it. But this case scenario, maybe you would have seen these kind of cases many a time in your clinic. So it's a 30-year-old male who came with a complaint of headache, which was actually existing for about a week and no other specific health issue. So how this scenario will be addressed by a physician? Because there was no medical illness, he examines and he says that, okay, you just have headache, just take the analgesics, you should be fine in a couple of days or so. If the same patient walks into an eye care practitioner, the practitioner would have seen the patient and identifies probably a refractive error and say that, okay, you need to wear the spectacles so that this headache will get resolved. So you just go with the spectacles. If that person is actually working in an industry and visits the medical health officer over there, the health officer inquires about where the person is working and he knows about the work pattern. And he says, oh, you were looking at the control panel for a longer time. Just take frequent breaks, the headache will resolve. So this is how the patient who had the complaint of headache is being addressed by a different practitioner. So the question of headache or the problem was that appropriately answered. Let's hold on to the question. Let's move on to the second scenario, which is actually a 30-year-old male who came with a complaint of eye irritation, which was there about 2 days. And he too had no specific health issues. And if you look at how this scenario is addressed, if it was a physician, he would have just seen, oh, there is a foreign body, would have removed the debris and given a drug. If it is an eye care practitioner, he would have also removed the debris and given the appropriate drugs. And if it was an occupational health specialist, he would say that, oh, you're not been using the PPEs, which was actually advised for you, to make sure that you use the PPE. And he would have also removed the debris. So what has happened here is each practitioner has actually done the job of removing the debris, which is supposed to be done, and given the drugs, which was actually managed well. But the occupational health specialist reinforced on the use of PPE, right? So this is how this particular case scenario was managed. So in both the scenarios, if you look at, there was a specific problem, but what the answers given by the practitioners was that the appropriate solution. Are we focusing at the problem or are we focusing at the solution? Maybe this talk will actually answer to this. So it is important that we act immediately before it is too late. So we have to focus on the preventive care than looking at the curative medicine. I'm sure the participants over here are well equipped with the knowledge of, say, optometry and also the medical health, right? So in general about healthcare, every one of us are equipped here. So we have a very strong foundation. The knowledge about the eye care, knowledge about the medical practice is well established with us. But what is little lacking over here is going in deep about each and knowing about why this is happening, why this is happening. The question of why has to be addressed. So you go in depth about what is the problem and understand and analyze the problem and then come out with a solution and provide the solution to the patient. So we should actually be equipped as a T-shaped person where you have a stronger foundation of knowledge and deeper into the specialty. So that is what we are going to go in the future slides, which is going to be the advice from all of us here. So going to the occupational health, what does this occupational health means? It is actually looking at the adaptation of the work to man and also that each man to the job. So what occupation it is, whether the person is fit for that occupation. So it is actually a match fixing between the man and the job. Let's take an example here. Let's take a driver. So you would have seen that for driving, you have a fitness. That is, you before getting the license, there is a possibility that you have to check for the vision and also the physical ailments. They check and then only they say that the person is physically fit to be a driver. So they give a fitness certificate, right? So most of us know about this. So there is less than actually very few occupations only have this requirements for job in India. And we in the occupational optometry services actually are coming out with the vision standards for various occupations, which Dr. KK was explaining before. So the physical ability of the person and the physical demand of the job has to be matched. If not, there will be a mismatch and there will be a possibility of hazard because of that. And it could actually be a public hazard. Means that if the driver was not visually fit and there was a fitness certificate given to him and he is going to take the life of all the passengers. So if there is a mismatch, then it is going to be a threat to the community itself. So knowing about the occupational health, I'm just moving forward with what is occupational optometry. So it is actually a branch of optometric practice which is concerned with safe and efficient visual functioning of individual at work. So what do? We assess the vision of the person at work, match the demand and ability, and we set up the visual standards for each job. So these are the important parameters we do under occupational optometry, which Dr. KK was also mentioning about the demand and standards. So we will see in depth about what all these new terminologies are. So KK was mentioning about the 7-step approach. The first step is the visual task analysis. So look at each task involved in the job. Look at what is more visually demanding. What are the parameters which has to be done by that particular person for that particular task? And see, and then look at the battery of tests which has to be done for that particular occupation. And the third step is doing a comprehensive eye examination and find out fourth one, which is what is the demand of the occupation, what is the ability of the person, and match whether this person is fit for the particular job or not. And the fifth step is educating the employees and employers. So give them awareness about what is needed for that particular job, what has to be recommended to them, and what has to be followed by each employee for the betterment of that particular industry or even the workplace. Final and most important thing is giving a report to the employer, which has a compilation of from the visual task analysis till the awareness session given to the industry, and then give as a report to the employer so that he can keep it as a file even for the audit purpose, and he can also see which employee had actually deviated from the requirement and what has to be given to the employee so that he is fit for the particular task. And he can also have the vision standards established from the task analysis as a pre-employment screening system so that he can take the appropriate person for the job and train them so that he has right job, right person for the right job. The last step in the occupational optometry services is the periodic eye examination. Not just you see them once. You have to go for the frequent examination as per the demand for the job. It can be biannual, it can be annual, or depending upon the task, you need to make sure that these people are examined. If they are involved in a task which is more visually demanding, you need to make sure that they are having an annual examination. If they have an industry where the solvent exposure is going to be there, it is important that they have biannual examination. So likewise, there are multiple parameters you can create and cater to the industries using the 7-step approach. The terms involved in occupational optometry are, the first one, as we discussed, is the visual task analysis. So what we do is look at the task, look at what are the fine details to be analyzed for the task and establish the vision standards. The demand is the requirement of that particular task, and the ability is a person's ability to accomplish the task. The standards is a minimum expected level of vision which is required for efficient and safe operation. So this is what we give it to the employee so that it can be used as a guideline for recruitment too. So for the visual task analysis, we usually use a Grundy's task analysis script, which actually takes information of occupation, clinical requirements, and environmental information. So the occupational information, it takes into account the working distance, at the distance at which the person is working, and what is the size of the detail, and does he have to do a lot of head movements, or how is the direction of gaze? Is the task stationary or is the task moving? So all these parameters will help us to identify what kind of visual aid to be given to the person and what kind of test to be performed, so that we will be able to appropriately identify a person with a good capacity. So in the clinical requirement, from these occupational information, we can identify what kind of visual acuity is needed, whether the binocular vision is needed, color vision is needed, or visual field. So from the example of what Dr. KK was giving, so all these tasks were analyzed and we came out with the standards, right? So we were able to say this person is visually fit, this person is not fit. You have to actually intervene the person with the spectacles so that this person can meet the demand. So this is how we cater the occupational optometry services, matching the visual ability and demand. We should also look at the environment of the workplace, see whether how is the lighting, how is the workplace, is there any hazard involved? It could be to the eye, or it could be even in general to the person itself. So you have to make sure that the hazard is also being marked, and you also look at whether there is how much is the risk involved because of that, and do the occupation demands a protection or not. So this also has to be documented if we are going to the work site. And from all these information and using a nomogram, we can identify what is the minimum level of visual acuity is needed for that particular performing the task with less demand. So you are making it the person to work with less demand so that he is comfortable at his workplace. Okay? So let's see an example here. Whenever we say as an electrician, it just comes to our mind that, okay, he fits the light, he fits the fan, that's it, right? So, but when we looked at the task, so what an electrician is doing, so we could identify that he has to do the installation purpose, which means he has to install all the electrical things, for which he has to read the plan, so which has information about the drawings. He has to understand what drawing is. He has to also know about each parameters which is written over there. And also he does the maintenance work of fixing, and the next is about the repair work, where he has to even look at the minute details of the task. Okay, so these were the important tasks which an electrician has to perform. So when you're in the clinic and you say that the person's occupation is electrician, it never comes to our mind, because it is only the terminology of the occupation. It is not about the task, right? So another thing is about the electronic parts assemblers. They will also be using minute wires, and also they have to fix these small chips and all using the wires, for which they had to match the wires to the color of the screws or whatever it is. So for which the color was very important. So what we did is designed a wire matching test, where the person has to match the wires, which was actually given by the industry itself. This was custom made by us. It is very simple. You just need to know whether this person is able to identify and match the wires when it was given haphazard, right? So it is the requirement of the job, and we have designed something new. So which the employer itself was very happy because we were able to understand what their job is, and we were able to design something new for them, right? So and seeing that the employee also will be happy that somebody has come to us looking at all our job and our needs, and definitely what he is going to give is going to be very useful for us. So it is actually bringing out the confidence of both the employer and the employee for the services which we offer. So understanding about the workplace is very important when we are taking up the occupational optometry. So with all these things, we are able to come out with a vision standards which can actually be given to the employer as a guideline for that particular task, which the industry is demanding or which the workplace is demanding. So it is going to be like a Bible for them in case of person requirement. Okay, now let's move back to the case scenario which we had discussed. The case scenario one was a 30-year-old male who had a complaint of headache, right? So this was actually during the COVID scenario, so where a person were actually working from home. So he was working from home and he had a headache. So when we inquired in detail about his work pattern, and he was saying that instead of 8 hours work, he was stretching and working for say 10 to 12 hours. And instead of working, keeping the laptop or the desktop on the desk, he was actually sitting on the bed and was working. Okay, so when we inquired in detail more about it, and he was like, he did not have a proper lighting setup at all at his place, so he was not comfortable and he was having the headache because of the work pressure. Okay, so what should be done for this? Analgesics is not a solution. Giving just a spectacles is not a solution. Or just I say that, okay, you are looking at the control panel and working at the industry. No, he was not working at the industry there. He was actually at home and working. So what we should have done is we should have actually looked at, he is actually moving towards digital eye strain syndrome. So which means that he has to be given awareness about what has to be done and what are the exercises to be given to him, so that he will not go into the syndrome of digital eye strain. So give him the awareness about good visual hygiene. Look at the workstation. If you're working on the bed, what are the preventive things you have to work so that you don't get into musculoskeletal disorders? Tell them about the stretching exercises which has to be done, and also few tips about taking care of yourself. So which actually is actually a solution for the case and not just giving the curative. Okay, it is actually solution. So which is what we have to, as an occupational optometrist, be addressing to that case. Now let's move on to the scenario of two, where the patient actually came with eye irritation. So he was a sculptor. So you could see here the sculpting job actually requires fine precision also, because he has to maintain the symmetry of the idol, right? And he's also been exposed to flying particles, which it can actually fall into the eye. The person can come out with eye irritation and foreign body. This is what has been, yes, all the medical practitioners which I had listed down identified the foreign body and removed it and given the drugs. But what is more important here is giving him the visual correction, which would actually help him to perform his job efficiently, and also giving him a side shield so that these kind of flying particles will not fall into the eye and cause more of damage to him, right? So this is actually the preventive care. So these people was very happy when these kind of spectacles were given to them. So they said, I'm able to see clearly, and also I'm not frequently finding eye irritation now because it is actually covered well. So don't you think that this is very important as a service which we are giving it to the unorganized sector, right? So this is what an occupational optometrist has to be doing. So emphasis on the protect your eyes was done to this kind of group of people, so they were wearing these spectacles throughout. So now that you all know that optometrists were playing a multiple role of like we were a BV specialists, we were contact lens specialists and things, but now let's move forward. Let's take up the role of occupational optometrist. So not just sitting into the clinic and have know about what the person's occupation is and just okay, you work as an say the sculptor, just give them a prescription. No, we need to understand more about the task. So let's move forward, go to the industries and understand about the task, not just the occupation, and provide them an appropriate care. We should also be involved in the pre-employment where we identify the right person is employed for the right job. So we are able to give them the guideline for choosing the best person for the job. Also, it is important that we identify the risk involved in the job. Okay, so it is important we identify what is hazard and what is a risk. We know that is hazardous, but whether the hazard is eliminated with some kind of factors or any engineering controls, if possible, give a recommendation about it so that even it is hazardous, there is some kind of protection towards it. So this knowledge has to be delivered to the employer. We should also be a part of routine examination where we know about how many years of experience the person has, how frequent the person has to go for the examination, and depending upon the years of exposure and also the age of the person, we can plan the routine examination or the periodic examination for the person. Also, we as a healthcare professional should also be involved in giving the awareness about the non-communicable diseases to this mainly the unorganized sectors who are actually not having any awareness about the non-communicable diseases. So we should be a part of spreading the awareness about the diseases so that we can actually come down with the prevalence of these diseases in India. Not only about the industries, it is important that we play a main role in the unorganized sector, which actually comprises of about 92% of the workers in India. And you all know that it is actually a highly visually demanding job. Giving them a small intervention with spectacles would actually help them a lot in improving the productivity, which you would have understood from Dr. Keki's presentation. So it is important that we also pitch in to the unorganized sector, even with the help of the government or any non-governmental organization, serve to them, which will actually give you the satisfaction of your profession. And I just wanted to also tell you that we can also be dependent on these smart devices. Now with COVID, I know that every one of you would be having digital thermometers and the pulse oximetry also into your house, right? So these kind of smart devices can also be deployed in your practice, which can actually enhance your clinical care. So you can actually measure the diabetes level, the blood sugar levels. You can also look at the blood pressure levels. You can also identify whether the person at risk of developing a diabetes or hypertension, which would enhance the practice pattern in your clinic. And I just wanted to add a few information that what is the investment which is needed for occupational optometry services in your clinical setup. 40% is the manpower, which almost every one of you would be having, because they have to go to the industries or they have to go to the camps and then deliver the care. So in the off-campus, maybe you need to set up the camp facility over there. So you need to, switch your equipments to the off-campus center and do that. And because you have identified a different battery of tests, you need to take all the equipments to the center and then deliver the care. And the other investment would be, say you need to provide the spectacles if it is going to be in an unorganized sector. Just find out some NGOs which could help them. So this would be like could be a CSR activity which could also be involved in getting industrial support or any NGO support for your activities. This could be one change from your clinical practice. So to sum up, I just wanted to add that every individual is different, and see your patient as a person and look at what job he is doing. Don't just ask about what is his occupation. That is not going to give any information. Look at what task he is involved and provide the care for the particular task. Look at the preventive care and not just the curative care. So this is what I wanted to convey to all the participants today. And I especially thank PPS sir and KK sir for their support, and also Janani, who is actually a pillar of support for occupational optometry department at Shankar Netralia. Thank you all. Thank you for the opportunity, Mahalingam sir.
Thank you, Rashima. That is a wonderful presentation. It's really thought-provoking too, and hope many of you have some questions. I think the first question, can we take up the questions, Rashima?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think the first question is from Pani Krishna Atreya. He asked actually, can you please suggest a few reference books for the teach, please? Um, you want to suggest anything, Dr. Rashima?
Sir, we have the textbook of occupational optometry by Dr. Santanam sir, which has all the information about what we have spoken today. So
Okay.
it can actually be taken as a guide for starting up the occupational optometry. Right, sir?
Okay. And for you would like to any other book that you would like to suggest?
So the work and I will also have information
For
about
type and
occupations and about the
Okay.
lighting.
Okay.
Lighting, you can refer to the lighting code. And any
Okay.
other things you want to add, sir?
Yeah, I think probably I thought actually they can also refer to ILO's encyclopedia,
Encyclopedia.
which has got extensive up-to-date information. And also, I think the last few years, Dr. Jairaj is here. I think
Jairaj,
he
sir.
also published some of the occupational, Dr. Jairaj published few occupational health books, as well as I think the Indian Association of Occupational Health released the basic occupational health book, I think, which is more for the primary care people. Maybe all those books always we should refer so that apart from occupational optometry, these books will give a lot of input for what more that we can contribute as a healthcare professional. Maybe Pani, I will just share with you some of these books later. I can't say from things, but we will just see what more that we could share. And of course, it is very important that we should refer to a lot of new publication that come. You know, IAOH has publishing regularly Indian Journal of Occupational and Environmental Medicine. I think it has got good number of things. There are good community-based book journals are coming with a lot of these articles. Probably those things we have to keep updated, and that will really help us. And just happy to share with you. Shankar Netralaya, Dr. P.P. Santanam is coming out with his second edition of the book, as well as on vision standards. Dr. Rashima and team are going to come with, and hope those things will add value to our gamut of books essential for practice and for teaching. Hope, Pani, you are satisfied with the question, and
Yes, sir.
will yeah. And the next question is from Mrs. Lata Balaji. In a private practice, to analyze the work condition of the patient, is there an occupational health worker whose help can be taken to solve his problem, like measuring his environment quantitatively? You want to answer, Rashmi?
Yes, sir. In case of industries, they have the larger industries will actually have a medical facility where they also have the occupational hygienist who actually documents the information about the environment, and you can look at those records. And if you are going to the place, if you're looking at, there was another question about light. So if you're going to the place and you're looking at the hazards, you can have the Grundy's visual task analysis performer, where you can mention about each. It has information about the environment also. Look at the hazards. For the lighting levels, you can use the lux meters and measure the light levels at each place, and also at the task and also at the environment, so that you know what is the light levels on the environment and what is the light level at the task which the person is working on. Um, yes, sir. You want to add anything, sir?
Yeah, thank you. I think, Lata, if you want to tie up with occupational health worker, I don't know, in Indian scenario, in organized sectors, they have an occupational health centers and environmental health and safety department, and even industrial hygienist will be there. Many of them, they will contribute in many of these information. The best way, if you're working with organized sector, try to interact with their team so that they can add more value and you can add value, so that it will be of mutual benefit in that sense. But in a non-organized sector, you can just see your idea probably is good in areas where you can't contribute or feel that you're lacking in knowledge. Then the idea of interacting with occupational health professional, they can put you through the right path. In fact, I also suggest that all the optometrists over here, today I think you can become a part as a member of Indian Association of Occupational Health, and every state, almost every state has got its own chapter. You can become part of it, and you can also share and mutually learn from each other. I think that's one information. The third question is from Manasi. Uh, she's asking how to cope up with the challenges while screening different workers in different occupation at the workplace post COVID.
Right. See, we expected this question because we are also having a challenge of screening the unorganized sectors during this COVID time. Um, as you all know, that we need to maintain the social distancing, and because our health is also important, because we have to serve to them by large. So we need to protect ourselves and to make sure that the person whom you are seeing is not getting affected because of the another person in the crowd. So make sure that they are also having the social distancing, mask and sanitizing, everything followed, and you have the 7-step approach and proceed with the battery of tests which is done. And for each the comprehensive eye examination, we have also come down with a few guidelines like what to be followed while you're at the campsite, from the preventive measures from our side, what to be done, like sanitizing ourselves, make sure that the equipments are also sanitized from one patient to another, so that we can avoid the spread of infection if it is present. Uh, so these are the important tips we thought we will have it during the post-COVID camp sector work.
Yeah. I think that's useful information, because I also want to add one thing. If you could convince the industries to send their employees in batches of 5 or 10 by giving the appropriate time, which some people also would agree upon.
Yeah.
Please, that also you can try, so that you
Yes,
can
we
avoid
have
this.
been doing that. We have been doing that during the scenario, like asking the industries to send their employees in a batches, so that we could make sure that they are spread across, and uh, all the tests are done inside the clinical facility. So the travel and things are also avoided, and the equipments transferring is also a big challenge, right? So that is also being taken care. But the industries have a problem here, because when it is going to be a large industry, they are not able to send in batches, and the people are from different parts of this place, right? So they are also not able to come to the hospital facility. So that is the reason, going to that industry and delivering the care, they feel we are getting the top class care, and also their time is also very limited
Sure.
being utilized for the work.
Okay, thank you, actually. I think so too. With our unorganized sector, we can't go to the doorstep for various reasons, because the facility we get in organized sector is different. Then also hospitals and optometrists should try to see how those people can be brought through the NGOs and get them helped in this trying times. Thank you, Manasi, for triggering question. And the next question, I think. This is question from Preeta. Preeta Ramprasad. She's asking, how do you assess lighting levels in your workplace? I think you have answered it. And secondly, how do you decide the lighting levels for a job? I think you want to reiterate that answer.
Yes, sir. So measuring the light levels, as I said, you can use the lux meters and measure the light levels, and you can look at the lighting codes. Sir has actually shared in his presentation about the lighting code, which actually gives information about.
I think you have. I think you have to unmute Rashima.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we missed
Um,
her.
yeah. So uh, knowing about the light levels, you need to know about each task, and what is the light levels required for the task is actually being given in the NES lighting code, which Dr. KK was shared in his presentation. So you can refer to that lighting code, which gives information about for each uh, job, what is the amount of light, or each task, what is the amount of light which is needed. So that can be recommended.
I think National Lighting Code
Right.
2010, it is an open access material. It is available, but there are some jobs, because there are new jobs and occupations are coming up. If want to calculate it, we have a method. Probably we will share it with you, maybe in the TwinTech Academy website. You can access to that material, and Preeta, I will try to see whether I could send you those calculation. And
So there was a question before.
also asking about yeah,
Sorry.
sorry. Yeah, the Pani Krishna is asked about to start some occupational optometry work. How can an NGO or an university approach the authorities, being less in experience? I strongly believe, being in Gurgaon, an industrial hub, we can help them. How do we convene? How do we convince probably the authorities about it? Yeah.
Right. So we were talking about a 7-step approach. It is actually from the industries contacting us. We go there and do that. So if you want to look at the industries, you can actually write to them saying that what are the services which you could provide, and then get them into our confidence, and then go there and visit them. Actually, it takes almost 2-3 times of visits to convince them and get an entry into the industry. That is about the industrial sector. In case of unorganized sectors, there can be associations which can be pitched in. So if you want to say about, if you want to go in for jewelers, you can contact the Jewelers Association through the NGOs, and you can convince them to be a part of this initiatives, and you can conduct camps and deliver the complete comprehensive eye care to them, so that it is going to have a snowballing effect. They will actually pass the information to their community, and people will come back to us. Getting the permission from the authorities, yes, it is actually the same process as what we are doing for the camps. Getting the government officials informed about if you are going to do in the public sector. If there is an NGO which is involved, they will also be taking care of all these activities. Sir, you may be the better person.
Thank you very much. I think with want of time, we're already 6:30, and sorry that I couldn't take another few questions. We will ensure those questions have answered to the concerned people through WhatsApp or email, and also try to put in our website, TwinTech website. Thank you for the wonderful audience for asking some relevant questions, and thank you, Rashima, for taking
Thank
the
you
whole.
for the opportunity, sir.
Okay, Mahalingam, page is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Rasima and Dr. KK. So at the end of the seminar today, I would like to thank our occupational optometry stalwarts, Dr. KK, Dr. Rashima, for making this CME a very meaningful and interesting one. I'd like to express my deep gratitude to our honored chief guest, Dr. P.P. Santanam sir. I also thank all the participants and their institutions for attending this unique seminar today. As rightly said by Dr. C.K. Ramchandar, a well man may produce and ill man cannot produce. Thus, it is in the hands of optometrists to provide a good vision care to our society. Thank you. I also take the opportunity to announce our next CME program on community eye care on 21st November 2020. The details will be available very soon at our TwinTech Academy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I request all the participants to switch on the video to take a group virtual photograph. Request all the participants to switch on the video. We'll take on group photographs.
Yeah.
Nice to see you all. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you all. And thank you, sir.
Dr. Manivelan and Dr. Jairaj. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining, sir.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thanks to Dr. KK and Dr. Rasima and Dr. PPS and our occupational health consultant, Dr. Jairaj, Dr. Manivel, and all the